You're meditating peacefully under a tree when you hear thundering footsteps. You open your eyes, and there's a massive drunk elephant charging straight at you. But here's the insane part. The person who sent this killer elephant isn't some random enemy. It's your own cousin, your childhood best friend. Have you ever had family turn against you? Ever wondered how far jealousy could push someone? Well, buckle up. And this is just attempt number 1. Meet Devadatta, Buddhism's version of Judas, the disciple who turns against his master. But with 3 murder attempts and a body count plan. 3 assassination attempts, 1 family betrayal, and a story that'll change how you think about toxic relatives forever. This story isn't just legend. It's recorded across multiple ancient texts, including the Vinaya Pitaka and the Kulavagga. And what it reveals about human jealousy is wild. But what Buddha did next will blow your mind. So who exactly was Devadatta, and how did Buddha's own cousin become his deadliest enemy? 2 boys growing up in the same royal palace, both princes, both incredibly talented, but only one gets called the chosen one. Siddhartha, you know him as Buddha, was the golden child. Prophecies, royal treatment, everyone talking about his destiny. Devadatta? He was just the other prince, the backup, the spare. But get this. Devadatta wasn't just good at everything, he was exceptional. He could shoot arrows with deadly precision, wrestle wild animals, and had this magnetic personality that drew people to him. Ever feel like you're living in someone else's shadow? That's Devadatta's entire childhood. Every single day, people talking about how special his cousin is while he's just there. Now imagine this happening in your own family. Your sibling gets all the attention, all the praise, all the opportunities. How would that feel? How far might that jealousy push you? Fast forward, Siddhartha becomes Buddha, attracts thousands of followers, kings bow down to him. Your childhood playmate is now literally the most famous person alive. That kind of jealousy, it's one of the 3 poisons Buddha warned about: greed, hatred, and delusion. And Devadatta was about to drink all 3. Some say Devadatta even admired Siddhartha once, before the jealousy began. But jealousy was about to turn deadly. Devadatta's watching his cousin become the world's biggest spiritual celebrity, and the jealousy is eating him alive. But he doesn't just want to compete with Buddha. He wants him gone. Permanently. His first murder plot? Absolutely insane. Ancient India, no guns, no poison. So what do you use to kill someone? A massive drunk elephant. Meet Nalagiri, a war elephant, already aggressive, already dangerous. But Devadatta takes it to the next level. He gets this beast completely wasted on fermented rice wine until it's stumbling around completely out of control. Then he waits. Buddha's walking through the narrow streets of Rajagaha, collecting alms, completely peaceful, completely unprotected. And Devadatta knows his routine. So one morning, just as Buddha's walking down this narrow street with his disciples, Devadatta releases Nalagiri. Imagine this: thundering noise, ground shaking, people screaming. This massive drunken elephant comes charging around the corner, trunk swinging, tusks gleaming, eyes wild with rage and alcohol. Buddha's disciples? They panic, they scatter. They're shouting, "Run, Buddha, run!" But Buddha doesn't move. He just stands there, completely calm, watching this multi-ton killing machine charging straight at him. And then something impossible happens. As Nalagiri gets closer, Buddha doesn't run, doesn't fight, doesn't even flinch. Instead, he radiates pure loving kindness directly toward this raging elephant, and Nalagiri suddenly stops, just stops. Right in front of Buddha. The elephant's eyes clear, the rage disappears, and this massive creature slowly, gently kneels down like it's bowing. Buddha reaches out, touches the elephant's trunk, speaks gently. The Dhammapada teaches, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal law. And in that moment, Buddha didn't fight the elephant. He loved him. This isn't just legend. These events are recorded in the Vinaya Pitaka, one of the oldest collections of Buddhist monastic rules. It happened. The crowd is in shock. The elephant keepers are in shock. Even Buddha's disciples are stunned. But Devadatta, he's furious. His perfect murder plan just made his cousin look even more divine. But Devadatta wasn't giving up. He was escalating. The elephant plan failed spectacularly, so Devadatta decides, if I can't use an animal to kill him, I'll do it myself. This time he's calculated, personal. He studies Buddha's routines, looking for the perfect opportunity. He finds it on Vulture Peak, Buddha's favorite meditation spot. Buddha goes there regularly to teach, to find peace. It's his sanctuary, and Devadatta is about to turn it into a crime scene. Buddha's walking up the mountain path, completely absorbed in meditation, completely trusting. Devadatta's already there, hiding behind rocks, waiting. He's found the perfect boulder. Massive, heavy enough to crush a person instantly, positioned right above where Buddha always walks. Buddha's climbing slowly, peacefully, disciples following behind, enjoying the mountain air. They have no idea that 30 feet above them, Buddha's own cousin is crouched behind a rock, hands on a boulder, waiting. Then Devadatta sees his chance. Buddha's directly below him, no escape route, perfect positioning. Devadatta pushes. This massive boulder starts rolling, bouncing, picking up speed, heading straight for Buddha's head. But then something impossible happens again. Just as this rock is about to crush Buddha, it hits another rock and splits perfectly in half. Most of it crashes harmlessly aside, but one sharp fragment cuts Buddha's foot, drawing blood. The Kulavaga, part of the ancient monastic texts, tells us this wasn't symbolic. It happened, and it left a mark. So Devadatta actually succeeded, partially. He became the first and only person to make Buddha bleed. But instead of celebrating, something else happens. Buddha stops, looks at his bleeding foot, then looks up directly at Devadatta's hiding spot. Their eyes meet. Buddha's expression isn't anger, isn't fear, it's sadness. Pure, deep sadness. Like he's looking at a lost child who's fallen so far from grace. Buddha doesn't call out, doesn't accuse, doesn't seek revenge. He wraps his foot and continues walking like nothing happened. And this drives Devadatta absolutely insane. Buddha's complete lack of retaliation makes him look even more petty, more evil, more isolated. If he couldn't kill Buddha with rocks, he needed professionals. Two failed attempts, and Devadatta's running out of sanity. This time he's not going solo. He's recruiting help. Professional help. Enter King Ajatashatru, ruler of one of India's most powerful kingdoms. Devadatta approaches him with a proposal. You control the people, I'll control the monks. Together, we rule everything. The king, hungry for absolute power, agrees. But their murder plot is diabolical. They recruit an assassin with poisoned fingernails. Yeah, that was actually a thing. One scratch and within hours you're dead. No weapons, no obvious murder. But Devadatta's paranoid, so he recruits backup assassins. If the first fails, they kill Buddha and the first assassin. If those fail, more assassins kill everyone. It's like a murder pyramid scheme. The first assassin approaches Buddha during his teaching, gets close, raises his poisoned hand, ready for that fatal scratch. But then something extraordinary happens. The moment this killer looks into Buddha's eyes, hears his voice, something inside him breaks. This professional murderer throws himself at Buddha's feet, confesses everything, reveals the entire plot. Devadatta, the king, everyone. Buddha's response? He doesn't call for guards or demand justice. He looks at this assassin and says, "Your honesty has saved you. Go in peace." Just like that, Buddha converts a professional killer into a peaceful monk. But it gets better. All the backup assassins witness this. One by one, they come forward, confess, ask for forgiveness. Within hours, Devadatta's entire murder squad has become Buddha's disciples. King Ajatashatru hears what happened and panics. He's just been exposed as an assassination conspirator. But Buddha sends a message. The king is forgiven. let him rule in peace. No revenge, no retaliation, just forgiveness. And this finally breaks something inside Devadatta. Every attempt to destroy Buddha has only made him look more divine, more worthy of worship. But if he couldn't destroy the teacher, maybe he could destroy the teaching itself. 3 failed assassinations, and Devadatta finally realizes Buddha is impossible to kill. So he changes tactics. If I can't destroy the man, I'll destroy his movement from the inside. Devadatta approaches Buddha with improvements to Buddhism. In front of hundreds of monks, he announces stricter rules. All monks should live in forests forever, only eat begged food, wear only rags, sleep under trees, never eat meat. Sounds holy, right? But Buddha sees through this. Devadatta is trying to make Buddhism so extreme that only fanatical monks will remain, monks he can control. Buddha's response is masterful. These are good suggestions for those who wish to follow them, but they should be optional, not mandatory. With that simple response, Buddha deflates Devadatta's power grab. But Devadatta is prepared. He's been secretly recruiting younger monks, convincing them Buddha's become too soft, too commercial. He stands up and declares, Buddha's lost his way. He's too old, too comfortable. I'll lead the true followers. And it works, sort of. About 500 young monks follow him, impressed by his charisma and promises of pure Buddhism. Imagine Buddha's heartbreak, watching his own cousin lead away hundreds of disciples, claiming to be the real Buddhist leader. But Buddha doesn't argue, doesn't fight back. He simply continues teaching, demonstrating through actions what true Buddhism looks like. And his silence speaks louder than any argument. Within weeks, those 500 monks notice something. Without Buddha around to compete with, Devadatta shows his true nature, controlling, demanding, obsessed with rules and punishment. The pure Buddhism Devadatta promised? It turns into a cult of fear. Question him, and you're punished. Compassion gets replaced by control. One by one, the monks return to Buddha, apologizing, asking for forgiveness. Buddha welcomes them back. No questions, no punishments, no lectures. Just welcome home. But for Devadatta, watching his followers abandon him, this realization comes too late. The karma he's been building is about to explode. Devadatta's failed at everything. Murder, conspiracy, community splitting. He's alone, abandoned, exposed as a fraud. But the universe isn't done with him yet. According to Buddhist teachings, some actions create anantariya karma, immediate consequences. Attacking an awakened being? That's one of them. And Devadatta was about to find out why. Strange things start happening. Devadatta develops a mysterious illness. His body breaking down, not from disease, but like his own hatred is eating him from the inside. His skin becomes covered in painful boils. His strength fails. He's constantly feverish. The physical symptoms are nothing compared to what's happening mentally. He starts having nightmares where he's chased by the very elephants and boulders he used against Buddha. He can't sleep, can't eat, can't find peace. People report supernatural events around him. Ground shaking when he walks. Animals fleeing. Plants withering in his presence. It's like the natural world is rejecting him. But Buddha, knowing everything Devadatta has done, does something incredible. He visits his dying cousin. The man Devadatta tried to murder 3 times walks into the room where his cousin is being consumed by his own karma. Seeing Buddha approach, Devadatta panics. He knows he's dying, and his last chance for redemption is standing right there. He tries to get up, tries to bow, but his body's too weak. He manages to raise his hands and whispers with his dying breath, "I take refuge in Buddha." Buddha places his hand on Devadatta's forehead. Your recognition of truth creates merit. You are not completely lost. Devadatta dies right there, but with that final surrender, he creates just enough positive karma to avoid the worst possible rebirth. But his death isn't quiet. The ancient texts say the earth cracked open beneath him. Thunder boomed. Flames erupted. It was like nature itself cried out. This is what happens when love turns to hate. Buddha's reaction to watching his cousin swallowed by the earth? Not celebration, not vindication, grief. Pure, heartbroken grief. He remembers the little boy who played with him in palace courtyards, taught him archery, shared his royal childhood. Somewhere inside that twisted man, that innocent child still existed. Buddha later tells his disciples, Devadatta was consumed by the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. But even in his final moment, he showed that awakening is possible for everyone. Then Buddha says something that changes everything. Devadatta was my teacher as much as I was his. He taught me compassion by showing me hatred, patience by testing mine, forgiveness by doing the unforgivable. So what does this 2,500-year-old family drama teach us about dealing with toxic people today? First, toxic people aren't born evil. Devadatta was consumed by the three poisons: greed for power, hatred from jealousy, and delusion about his own righteousness. Think about your own toxic family members. Aren't they usually driven by these same forces? Second, fighting toxic people only makes them more toxic. Every time Buddha could have retaliated, he chose compassion instead. That choice led to Devadatta's self-destruction. Buddha didn't defeat his enemy. His enemy defeated himself. What would happen if you stopped fighting back against your toxic relatives? Third, your worst enemies can be your greatest teachers. Buddha said Devadatta forced him to practice compassion at the highest level. Your toxic family members aren't just obstacles, they're your training ground for becoming more patient, forgiving, and wise. Fourth, everyone has potential for redemption. Even Devadatta, in his final breath, found enough light to save himself from the worst fate. Nobody is beyond hope. Finally, you can't control others' actions, only your responses. Buddha couldn't stop the assassination attempts, but he could choose how to respond with love instead of revenge. That choice made all the difference. Remember what the Buddha said: hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. That wasn't just a line. He lived it, and so can we. Next time someone close betrays you, remember Buddha and Devadatta. Your response, not their action, determines who you become. Will you let their poison consume you, or will you choose the path that sets you free? Choose compassion not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve freedom from hatred's poison. If this story changed how you think about forgiveness, or gave you tools for handling toxic people, smash that like button and subscribe for more ancient wisdom that transforms modern lives. Drop a comment. Who's your Devadatta? How are you choosing compassion over revenge? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Remember, every time you choose compassion over revenge, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the world, one relationship at a time. Thanks for watching, stay wise, and we'll see you next time.